We are just treasured and lucky, whatever words you want to use, rich, wealthy, blessed to have David and Jan Pontzer with us. They have become good friends of ours, but not just that. For them to be in our body, they are blessings to our people here. Okay, if you know David and Jan, okay, David and Jan are good, firm foundations of wisdom, joy, blessing, life wisdom. So if you don't know them yet, you need to know them, okay? But David, he has gone through some crazy stuff the last year, and I think it's really appropriate for him to come and share what the Lord has been doing in him, and I believe it's going to bless us for those of you who are going through some crazy stuff. Will you welcome David with me and stand, and it's going to be good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Wow. Good morning. My wife Jan and I, we retired 10 years ago and moved here. And for 8 years, we looked for a church. And I mean, we looked. I think we went to most every church in the surrounding 50 miles, at least the Christian ones. And we ended up here in April of 2023 by way of Jan's hairdresser, who told us about it. And we feel so blessed to be here, this community, to be part of it, to be getting taught here, and to be just part of the body. It's just been a fabulous experience. We're all excited about it. So back in January, right after Christmas, Pastor Ethan stopped me after church. He said, "Would you share your testimony some Sunday morning?" And because he knew a little bit about what I've been going through, and I said, "Yeah, sure, I can." I thought, "Yeah, I can share a couple minutes, tell my story, before service, no big deal." And so I'm waiting, and I'm kind of ignoring it a lot. And in April, Ethan catches me out in the brand new lobby, and he says, "Well, what day do you want to do it? What day do you want to do it?" And that's I kind of stopped for a second, and he means like the whole day. And what day in June? Well, any day. So he picked a day, and here we are. I asked God, well, what am I going to talk about for at least 30 minutes? Got to be 30 minutes anyway. And I'm not sure I'm the right guy to share the deep motivational truths and, based on scriptures. And, Ethan has a long and strong bench around here, and he brings up Nate, and he brings up Kate, and he brings up Georgina. We have the same insurance agent. And I'm thinking, I'm just not that guy. I'm not the teacher guy. So God answered me. He says, well, you're 69 years old. You must have something to say about what you think you've been learning from me. So I got a slide of 3 things. Is it working? There they are. Fear of everything, topic number 1. Topic number 2, why is God shoving me around? And my last one is the mighty shove, which is really the testimony. Okay, that's enough. Clear? Great. So like many of you, I didn't start my adult life believing in God. As a matter of fact, I was pretty adamant about not believing in God, and that I believed in mathematics and science. I call it the fear of everything, or like the awe of everything. And I studied stuff. I learned stuff. I followed, those who knew a lot of stuff. And my thinking like this went on for the first 30 years of my life. I would vigorously defend my worldview, that there's really no God in particular. How could there possibly be that? I said, look at all the animals on the Galapagos Islands. They tell the whole story right there. I was quite happy with my framework. I was doing fine until one day I was chosen. And I want to tell just a little about it. I got invited to a dinner meeting in York, Pennsylvania, and these dinners were what they call full gospel businessmen dinners, which I really didn't know what that meant, but the speaker was going to be Dr. Oles. Slide. There's a picture. It's coming. So Dr. Oles is the director of the Buell Planetarium in Pittsburgh. And I'm a big astronomy enthusiast, right? I got this giant telescope. This is me in New Mexico waiting for the sun to go down. And the sky is very dark out there. And I drove all the way out there from Georgia just for a few days to look at the universe. So an astronomer is going to speak at the meeting. It's in my hometown. I'm going. So we go. And we get in this room. Slide away. We go and we walk in the room, and of course we don't know anybody really, maybe one or two. And it's one of these rooms where it's rectangular and all the tables are round, and there's about 10 people at each table, and then there's a lectern against the wall, on one wall, right? And we're looking around where we're going to sit, and it's busy. There's 150 people or something, and the only seat left for Jan and I, and my seat in particular, was the one facing away from the lectern on the round table, right in front of the lectern. So like I'm facing away from it. It'd be like me sitting here facing you guys. And it was awful. It was the worst place to sit. And you know how when the speaker comes up in a room like this, everybody shuffles their chair around so they can sort of like aim at the speaker, and they're on the round table. So after dinner with some strangely, weirdly happy people at this round table, it's time for the speaker. And this is good. This is going to be the good part, right? So I turn my chair all the way around, and now I'm facing, the lectern's right in front of me. I can kick the thing. I'm straining, right? I'm looking up at the speaker, uncomfortable, hard chair, and I couldn't see anybody else in the room. It's just me and the speaker, right? Everybody's behind me. I was all by myself up there, kind of. And Dr. Oles started to go down my list of ironclad reasons why I didn't believe in God. I mean, right down, in order, my list of reasons. He went right down, boom, 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 right down the list. I'm sitting there, like he's reading my mail, right? It was challenging my sense of statistics, like this can't be just an accident, right? Some of my reasons, I wrote a couple down here. Why would God trouble himself to make us in the first place? Why would someone have to die so we can go to heaven? It's just ridiculous. Think about it. Why are there so many religions and they're all sort of the same but all sort of different and kind of crazy, and people fight over them and have wars? How can there be such a thing as Satan? Really? A real live devil? Come on. And everything we know and study in the world is at complete odds with the Scripture. And the more we learn and the more we study and the more we discover, the less and less the Scriptures seem relevant to me at the time. And then my favorite one is, if I was God, I'd be embarrassed if somebody worshiped me. Why would God want to be worshiped? These things didn't make sense to me. This was my framework where I was. On and on, right down my list. And at the end of it, I'm starting to get convinced that maybe I might be wrong about some of these things. Yeah. So at the end of the presentation, I knew this was going to happen, kind of. He's going to have a call, and if you want to believe Jesus, if you want to accept Jesus, come on up. Well, I'm sitting there. I'm uncomfortable. The chair is hard. I need to stand up anyway. My neck is sore. I'm thinking, maybe I'll stand up. Then I'm thinking, I'm embarrassed to stand up. And then I'm thinking, I'm not that guy that cares what everybody thinks. I'm not embarrassed at all, right? I'm that guy. I stood up. I wrote down here, I was dramatically changed that night. It was a sudden change, and I started to think differently about everything right then. Wow. And I know some of you, this probably happens to some of you, also, not just me, right? This happens. Some people not so much, but it happened to me that way. And it's disorienting. I'm driving in my car, I'm looking at the billboard, and there's a guy driving a new Corvette, smiling and happy. And I'm thinking, that's not true. Wow. That's not true. I could maybe have a Corvette one day, but that's a lie, right? Television commercials. You need this, you need that. I started thinking about the music I was listening to, and more importantly, the lyrics. You can listen to music all your life, and you never really listen. All of a sudden, I'm listening. Man, this stuff is evil, some of it. So it's kind of creepy, and it's not true. And it's people that are just confused. That was me. I felt like I was a different person. I was born again, right? At 35. Now I look back on that, that was a long time ago, I'm 69. I look back on that and I think, what could God have done to make his creation shout louder that he's there? What could he possibly do different? Make something more amazing? So it gets your attention? That's what I think now. All right, part 2. Why is God shoving me around? Page 4. Like all seniors, I have years and years and years of experience and all kinds of memories, and my memory is really good. I'm in what they call cognitive incline. And I really think that some of the things I learned are true for sure, and some of the things I'm not so sure about. And I have a lot of testimonies, and some of them are even good. And over the years, my thoughts, my beliefs, my convictions, priorities, my worldview has all been kind of changing. And I feel like I'm like on this curvy course towards Jesus, right? Sometimes I'm a little askew, but I'm on a curvy course. And it's obvious to me that people around me are either on a course towards Jesus or they're on a course away from Jesus. There's just 2 courses. And that's just how it is. And I feel like every once in a while God gives me a shove now and then to adjust my trajectory a little bit, right? Like, no, yeah, and get me aimed a little bit more towards him, where he wants me to be, what he wants me to be doing and thinking about. And this God shoving changes my trajectory. And sometimes I think maybe this testimony today even, or anytime I share anything with anybody, is God giving somebody maybe a little shove, right? So this is why God's shoving you around. He dropped in my brain sometime in February maybe or March, about trajectories, and that your trajectory may not be changing very much. You may have what I would call a flat trajectory, where you're cruising along, you're pretty happy, you're a Christian, you found a church, you have friends, you have hobbies, your kids aren't in jail, there's food on the table, you might have some troubles, but they're not earth-shattering or traumatic. And this can lead to kind of the old flat trajectory where it's steady as she goes Christian. But when you look in the Bible, that's not what God has in mind. He's not a steady as he goes kind of God. He talked about the lukewarm Laodiceans, right? He didn't like that. So you may sense that God's shoving you a bit now and then, trying to change your momentum towards him. And it might at least be in part of getting ready to go to heaven or getting ready to do something. That's my part about the flat trajectory. I don't want to have a flat trajectory. Part 3, a mighty shove. Page 5. Recently, I experienced a mighty shove. I was dramatically reminded that the amazing parts that make up this body are not going to last forever. And on November 30th last year, a new aortic heart valve taken from a dead cow, no kidding, and sewn into my heart, which was cut open for that reason, so they could get the needle and thread in there and sew it in. It was a miraculous scientific medical thing, right? And I know for sure that God's just given me a bunch more years, and I don't know why. I've been talking to him about it. I may be paying a little more attention if there might be an assignment or something, But it's quite a mighty shove to my trajectory. And the short version is, one day I'm totally surprised to find out that my heart valve is worn out. It's going to kill me very soon. And God orchestrates this incredibly unlikely, complicated series of events. And I end up with a new valve. According to the doctors, it should last many years. It's from a dead cow, and evidently God did not create cows just for hamburgers and leather seats. Now, I'm not persuaded to think this is just the way it should be for me. I live in the United States. I have mandatory Medicare coverage. This is a first world country. We get the best of medical science. Or that I was just smart enough to dodge the bullet, or I'm just really lucky. No, none of that. I just know for sure God gave me more years. Over this past summer, I was busy getting in shape for a multi-day backpacking trip in Georgia, in the mountains with my buddies. And this is something I do every once in a while. This is where you have the backpack with the tent and all the food, and you carry everything in, you carry everything out, and you do this for a few days in a row. And I do this a lot. I've been doing it for 20 years. And I'm hiking around with my backpack on the dirt roads in the thumb, and I'm climbing the steps at the park. I'm riding my bike. I'm getting pretty proud of my fairly fit senior self. One rainy day in September, I'm on a treadmill. And I'm walking on the treadmill. I'm watching my heart rate, you know how you do. And you raise the thing up a little bit and up a little bit more. And pretty soon, I was getting up to 140 beats, which is pretty high for an old guy. And I felt like somebody touched me on the chest like this with a finger, very lightly. That's exactly how it felt, just like that. I'm thinking to myself, what's that? So I slowed the treadmill down a little bit and it went away. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't even tell Jan. I didn't tell anybody. Jan would point out that this is a male trait called denial. And that all men are good at this. So my annual physical is late in September, just before the hike. And the doc is wrapping it up, right? I'm buttoning up my shirt. He's typing on the computer, telling me how good my blood is. My cholesterol is in the normal range. It's a little on the high side, but it's normal. It's okay. And he says, when was your last colonoscopy? You know, is that due? That's due. He's writing that baby up, giving me a prescript for that. And who do I want to have it done by? And I thought to myself, what about that touch? I says, you know, Doc, I was on the treadmill. I felt like a touch. And he takes his hands off the keyboard and he looks up at me. Tell me more about that, he says. And so I tell him more about that. Pretty soon, you know, he's delete on the colonoscopy, and he's typing in there stress echo. Right, Nate? He's typing in stress echo. We're going to have a stress echo. Would you just check it out? We just want to check it out, right? So October 12th comes around. I got my best sweatpants on, my sneakers. I'm going to crush the stress echo. Show up at McLaren. We're going to crush this baby. We're in the waiting room. We go in. I'm feeling good, right? We go in there, and 12 color-coded leads all over. They're leading me up, wired up. Treadmill's right here running, ready to go, and in comes Nurse Rachel. And she's going to listen to my heart one last time. I'm just going to listen to your heart before you get on the treadmill. That's what she says, right? She puts that ice-cold stethoscope on my chest, and she says, you know you have a murmur. And I says, yeah, I have a murmur. I've had it all my life. And why do you keep that in the refrigerator? And she has this stern look, like not a smile, nothing, right? She says, you're not getting on that treadmill. Your murmurs, you're not getting on a treadmill. And she rewrites the order for just the echo part. And off she goes. And in comes the echo lady with the machine on wheels. They roll it in. They rip all those all the leads off of me. Oh man! And now it's time for the echo. So they have this probe. You know, some of you may have had this where they probe. Or I'm like, they do this for pregnant women, don't they? To see the baby. So I said, is it a boy or a girl? And not a smile, nothing. In comes, nobody seemed to appreciate my humor. In comes Nurse Rachel. I nicknamed her Rachel Tripwire. So Nurse Tripwire comes in, and she looks at the screen, you know, and they're doing it, and she's looking, and then she leaves. She comes back, and she tells me that the pressure across my aortic valve is alarmingly high. It's 100 and something, it's supposed to be 20. Millimeters of mercury. Nate, you can get this right. So, and your doctor wants to see you right away, like right now. And the doctor's across town and around the corner, right? Yeah, and this is the first time ever in my whole life a doctor wanted to see me right away. It's usually the other way around. You want to see them right away, and they're busy. He wants to see, so we drive over there. We're kind of in shock a little bit. Something's kind of wrong. We get to the doctor's office. We go in. He comes in right away, and he's looking at Rachel Tripwire's printout that he had, and he said that I need a new aortic valve. It's shot. It's like shocking. And I'm going to set you up with this cardiologist. His name is Dr. Scaff, and we'll make an appointment with him as soon as we can and send us home. So now we're driving home. We're like, what? We get home, and I'm thinking, Dr. Scaff, who's that? I don't know this guy. And I says, but I do know a guy. I know a guy at church. He works at the cat lab. He's got to know Scaff. So, and I had his email. So I email Nate. Nate, what about this Dr. Scaff? Is he any good? Nate sends emails me right back. He says, oh yeah, Scaff's the best. He says, but you're going to have to be patient if you want to be his patient. He's very busy. And it turns out, though, that Dr. Scaff and my doctor are buddies. They're from the same town in Syria. Yeah, Syria. It's a long way away. And I got in 4 days. So we go in and we talk to Scaff, and he said he has Nurse Tripwire's report too. And yep, you need an aortic valve at a minimum. We're going to do a bunch more tests to see if anything else is wrong. And you have to be thinking about where you're going to get it done. And we can do it here, or we can do it in Detroit, we can do it in Ann Arbor. And you need to get it done right away. Not weeks, not months, but right away, soon, days. So we leave his office in shock and drive home. Now we're starting to get a feeling of what this really means. Our travel plans for Christmas to California to visit our son and his family are not going to happen. We call the real estate agent in Tucson and see about her re-renting the winter house that we rented, a rather big financial commitment that we're not going to be able to do, right? And we pray for healing, and I let God know that I prefer the instantaneous version. You know, this is the one where everyone's real surprised that you're not sick anymore, and you get kudos for being close to God. And I'm on the internet looking for various types of surgeries for it. There's a lot of different aortic valve surgeries. They have all different kinds they do. They have different kinds of valves. There's a lot to know about it. And one article I'm reading says only 3 out of 100 die on the table. And they're kind of proud of this. I'm asking God, why me? And I'm thanking God that the problem was even discovered. I really didn't have any symptoms. I'm disappointed with God that I have to deal with this. Jan and I are praying for wisdom concerning the decisions before us. We're worried. And then we remember not to be worried. And we look in Philippians 4. And we're not anxious for anything, but we're worried too. I'm starting to think that, maybe I'm not going to live forever. On October 23rd, I'm in Nate's cath lab for the tests. Dr. Scaff's getting ready to put the dye in my blood, and he's going to run me in there, and I got to swallow this transducer, and I'm a little nerved up, and they take my blood pressure, and it's 150, and it's never 150. And here comes, Nate's not on my team, other people are, but here comes Nate with the lead apron. He's circling around, and he comes in my little stall, and he prayed for me. It makes a big difference, doesn't it? Yeah, to know a guy. And he reassured us. Yeah. There was a test. The test that day, there's nothing wrong with me except the valve, which is really wrong. All the other stuff's working great. This is like good news, kind of. And Nate swings by and walks us out. He's eating his lunch while he's walking us out and showing us how to get to the elevator and out the door. And we go home. It's a 20-day wait for surgery at Cleveland Clinic. Seems like they're kind of busy. Plus, the doctor's going away for a week. I wonder if 20 days is too long. We talk to the doctors about it here. Yeah, it's okay. So we wait. We wait 20 days. Jan's keeping a close eye on me, pretty much line of sight. Even at night. When I do anything stressful like driving, I feel the touch. It's like I feel it more now. Like is it getting worse? Now, or is it just that I know about it? And we're sort of on eggshells, but we're praying, we trust God, we're thanking God for the journey, we're thanking Him that we are even on a journey. On November 20th, the real estate agent in Tucson calls and sent us an email, or she didn't call, she sent us an email to let us know that she re-rented the house, and now we're off this financial hook, right? Well, I had made a deal with God. I said, God, if you get me off this financial hook, 10% of that bill, which is not income, right? This was going to be a bill I was got to pay. I'll have to give that, So I did. I wrote that check. Yikes. Jan went upstairs and blew the shofar. We have a shofar. She blew the shofar right in the house. And I thought to myself, how could anyone possibly go through something like this not knowing God, right? Like you think, what is it like for people that don't have God? And Jan's thinking about how this is going to play out. She's got to drive me to Cleveland. She's going to be in a strange hotel. We're going to be there. I'm going to be in the hospital 5 or 7 days if it all goes well. This is on our minds. We're waiting 20 days. We're trying to trust God, thinking about end-of-life stuff. We visited the lawyer to fix a mistake in the living will. Really. I backed up my computer hard drive. This is the stuff you do, right? I scheduled the bank to pay all the bills for the rest of the year. I went through I do most of the financial stuff at the house, so I wrote down all the passwords for all the accounts. I made Jan log into the bank and practice, which she knew how to do anyway. And I documented where all the money is and goes and the taxes and where the files are kept and how the hard drive's laid out. And we have faith to trust God, but we're still stressfully waiting. My brother and wife who live in page 10, my brother and his wife live in Pittsburgh, which isn't that far from Cleveland, so he says, we're going to come and help support you guys while you're there. And I already made dinner reservations for Fish in Cleveland. What hotel are you staying in? So we share that information. This is huge. I'm feeling God is good. We take a breath. We thank God. Then my son calls from California, wants to know how best he can help. When can I come out? And we ask him to come out after surgery to help with the drive back and the recovery a little bit. So he books his flight. He's coming, and I think to myself, wow, I know what love feels like. Yeah. So on the way to Cleveland, I'm all nerved up. I'm in the passenger seat. Jan's driving. I always drive. I don't always drive, but I always drive. And I'm like nervous, and she's too close to the edge. And really, and I feel the finger. I feel the finger on my chest, right? I'm not even driving now. I'm all nerved up. It was like funny how nerved up I was. Like I thought to myself, why am I'm not this guy that's nervous. I was. We finally get there. We meet my brother. We go out for the seafood on the north coast of America, Lake Erie. And I'm feeling better. I'm still praying for miraculous healing, though. And I have this idea when I get to the hospital, it's going to be like, what are you doing here, right? And this is what I'm really praying for and hoping for. So Wednesday, November 29th, they call it testing day. It's a whole day of needles, wires, big pulsing machines, and getting undressed a lot. And dressed over again, and over and over. And in the afternoon, we meet with the cardiologist. And I listen really closely while he mouths the word critical. I'm sitting there. It's critical. I said, well, there goes God's opportunity to fill the church with doctors and nurses, that saw a miracle. He missed that opportunity. God did. Yeah. We met with a surgeon, too, and he appeared to be an okay guy. He looked kind of busy, maybe a little tired. He's a famous surgeon. We met with some other doctors, and we're waiting for one of the tests. We're in the waiting room, and there's this administration table about 30 yards away. It's a big room, and everybody, my brother and his wife and Jan, we decide that I get to pick where to go to dinner because it's my last supper. And we're from New Jersey, but we live here, and so, well, let's get some ravioli. They don't have that in Port Huron. And so the lady at the administrative desk, way across, like back by the door over there, says, sir. She waves me over. She's Italian looking. She says, I heard you say ravioli. You want to go out for some ravioli? And I said, yeah, I want ravioli. She says, well, the best place to go is Little Italy, which is in Cleveland. She reaches in gives me a brochure for Little Italy, Mama Bella's. Go to Mama Bella's. So that night, Uber ride, snow-covered streets, Cleveland to Mama Bella's. We have the ravioli. It's fabulous. I have a glass of Chianti as my surgery prep. We joked a little bit. It helped make the trauma not so traumatic, and we thank God for inventing Italians. And surgery's scheduled for the next day, 5:30 a.m., which is kind of a blessing because if you get to be first in the morning, you're not likely to get bumped by an emergency or something. So my brother volunteers to get his car. This is too early for the shuttle. My brother gets the car out, brings it over. Jan and I are in the lobby. My brother's in the lobby of the hotel. We prayed. We stood in a circle and prayed. And we prayed for a good outcome to the surgery. And we navigate back over to the big building to our assigned desk number J2. We check in. The lady says, could I have a copy of your living will? And I happen to have it with me because I was instructed to have it, which I did. So I gave her the copy. That goes in a file somewhere. And then they give you the gown. You know the gown? The one that's supposed to attach or connect in the back? They're impossible, right? And they hand Jan all my clothes in a bag with my shoes, and they give her a beeper and a locker key so that she can roam around all she wants, and they can summon her with the beeper. Well, this is great, right? We hugged. We say we loved each other, which we do. And I get on the wheelie bed, and the guy's wheeling me down the hall, and there's Jan standing there with a bag of clothes. And they wheel me around the corner, and there's all these operating rooms. And you know what this is like, right? It's a Cleveland Clinic. They have this long hall, and they have 40 operating rooms, maybe 50, on both sides of the hall. And they parked me in front of number 64. That was mine. And I'm looking up and down the hall. I'm laying in the bed. I'm looking around, right? And there's people parked in front of the rooms. Everybody's parked, parallel parked in the hallway next to your door. These are all the people that are going to, there's a lot of them. Every once in a while, somebody comes out and talks to me, and the first thing they ask you your birthday. What's your birthday? I told you my birthday. I told everybody my birthday. There's something about birthdays in hospitals, right? They want to make sure you're you or something. And then they tell me there's such and such a specialist, and this is what they do, and they have some questions for you. And then, do you have any questions? And you're laying there, right? Do you have any questions? You're about to have heart surgery. Do you have any questions? I don't have any questions. I can't think of a thing to ask. Yeah. Pretty soon they wheel me in. The doors, on TV, the doors always swing, right? But these doors are electric. This is Cleveland Clinic. Electric doors. Electric doors open, they wheel me in there, and I've never been in one before, operating room. First thing you notice are the big lights on the ceiling. They're gigantic, and there's 3 of them, right over this real narrow table. And then I'm looking around, and there's buckets of tools, stainless steel tools with handles sticking up, like scissors and probes and who knows what all, hundreds of them, in buckets like they had just gone through some sort of autoclave or something, and stacks of gauze, and 10 people all gowned up with masks on. They wheel me over to the operating table, and it's motorized. They get it right at the same level. Now it's my job to get over there, which I did. It's very narrow. They get around me. They say that we're having the safety huddle. They're going to have a safety huddle. And I'm talking to God. I'm looking at the ceiling tiles. This is where God hangs out in hospitals. I'm looking up there, God. And I kind of make peace with it. I remember thinking, however this works out, it's okay. This is what's in your mind, right? I mean, I'm not an uber Christian or anything, but I remind myself I really believe that I'm going to heaven when I die, and I really do. And I reminded myself that I do believe it. David, you believe this? Yes. Okay, God, well, whatever happens, I'll either see you today or I'll see you eventually. I'm okay with it. My team gathers around, and then I'm out like that. That's the last thing I remember about it. According to Jan, she's kept up to date. It's only 3 hours. They're all done. The surgeon meets with her and tells her that the old valve was very bad, very hard to get out, and the new one's in and up and running. And it came from a cow. We didn't know until then it was a cow. I wake up in a place called the ICU, which is a place where no one can see you. And there's all these wires and tubes. There's an IV in my neck. I'm not kidding you. This is unbelievable. There's a plastic tube down my throat. I'm waking up. The nurse puts a button in my hand. She says, this is your pain medicine, and when you push the button, you get some pain medicine. I pushed the button right away. And she said, you can push it all you want because it's the computer. It won't overdo it, right? So I pushed it again. And pretty soon I figured out that sometimes when you push it, you hear a beep back around. And sometimes you push it, no beep. And then I could feel those drugs coming in, right? So it's the beep. You want to get the beep, right? And so and there's a clock, and I'm looking at the clock, and 10 minutes, you get the beep. If you wait 10 minutes, you get a beep. If you don't get a beep. You got to wait 10 minutes. But the ones in between don't count. They don't do anything. They don't extend it. Yeah. So about this time, I thought, I'm thinking. I'm figuring this out. I'm looking at the clock. I'm playing with the button. My brain is working. I looked up at the ceiling tiles. Well, God, so far so good. I'm alive. So the ICU is a noisy place with curtains, and there's no doors or walls. And I think I had a nurse that didn't have anything to do with look after me, but she was always on the computer. And I laid there not moving. You don't want to be moving. They just have you apart. Now you're together, but sort of. And the only thing I'm moving is the finger on the button. And it was a long night. They finally took the tube out. Jan told me that I tried to take it out myself, but I don't remember doing that. And they restrained me from that for sure. Anyway, around the next day, there's hope that I'm going to go from the ICU to a place called step down. I envision going down steps or maybe an elevator or something to get to step down. And the people around me are talking about maybe going to step down, but they're kind of busy over there, and they might not have room for me, and I might have to stay another night in the ICU. And they're talking about it, and I'm hoping, I'll get down there. Jan can't see me too much in the ICU once in a while. They're monitoring the access. About 5 o'clock, here comes a guy down the hall pushing an empty wheelchair, and I'm looking at him. Here he comes. I'm thinking to myself, this is going to be a wheelchair ride, and I have to get up and get in there. I can't get up and get in there. He comes right up next to me. There are like 4 or 5 of them now. The motorized bed comes up. They swing my legs out. All these tubes above and things hanging. They move them over to and there's tubes below. There's stuff going in and out. And they're catching it all in these various bags and things. And they roll me down the hall and around the corner to the step down. I had to let go of the button. The button went away. And I get to the new place. I get the new bed. I get myself in there without moving. I had to move a little, I guess. I'm hoping the tubes don't get ripped out. Jan can now visit as much as she wants. So can my brother and his wife, and I look at the ceiling tiles again. This is where God hangs out, and I ask for a bit of help to get through. Leland's a musician. He has a song called You're Still Mighty. And the lyrics, we listened to the song on the way over in the car, and the lyrics are, my anxiety, it melts in your eyes. You get me through to the other side. You're still mighty. And it's going through my head like a tape, And I'm thinking, I'm thinking, don't let that go. Leave that go around and around, because you're pretty anxious at this point. Here comes my nurse, strolling in the room, toying a computer on a stand. She introduces herself as Goulet. She says she's originally from Turkey, and she's so full of loving care and compassion. She changes out a couple of my IVs, and by this time I know about IVs. And some people are good at it and some aren't, right? Well, Goulet was very good at it. She was an expert, and I liked her right away. I make another thankful glance up at the ceiling. The next 3 days are the toughest. Every 6 hours, a computer comes rolling in, towing a nurse, and I get to take all these pills. They have a little thing of them, all different ones. Some are big, small, white, orange, and there's always a shot. And she said, where do you want your shot? You can have it in your stomach, and I said, stomach, I don't have to maneuver to provide access to anywhere else. So I get these shots every 6 hours. Yeah, I'm taking opioids for the pains now, and I'm having hallucinations. And for the life of me, I can't understand why somebody would want to do this for fun. I would close my eyes, and my bed would be surrounded by people, and they'd be talking to me. People standing all around, like 8 of them. And I'd open my eyes, and they'd be gone. And I'd close my eyes, and they'd be back. And I don't remember what they talked about. And I wasn't sleeping. This was like in the day. Very strange. During the second night and step down, I started having this really severe pain in my back. I guess when they break you open, they strain things, right? So my ribs and stuff, I started having, and I'm yelling at God. Man, this was really bad. I maxed out, no more pain, meds for you, you're maxed. I'm yelling at God. God, you got to get this fixed. I made the motorized bed go up and down and halfway up and halfway down. Nothing I could do to get rid of it. It was tough. I called Jan in the morning. Oh, you got to get over here. Not knowing what would happen, but I needed her to come over. She came over, and they got these pads or something. There was medicated pads. They put them on my back, and it helped a little. It was just tough. About 24 hours of that, and it gradually went away. The other thing is I didn't eat anything. I wasn't hungry at all. Can you imagine going 5 days, and they bring food all the time? I mean, you could order off the menu there, and they bring the food, and you don't eat, and you're not hungry. And you're thinking to yourself, why am I not hungry? I've never had this, ever, my whole life. 5 days, no eating. No problem. During each day, I had to get up and shuffle around the hall with the help of a physical therapist. And these girls, they have ponytails and maroon tracksuits. and they hover out in the hallway looking for victims. And they walk by, and the nurse is in there. And they walk by again, he's getting a blood sample. And then they walk by, and nobody's in your room, and they come. And they get you out of the bed, and you have to shuffle out in the hall. And sometimes you have all this stuff hanging, and you're shuffling along. They make you walk. Yep. After one such outing, I'm back in the room, and I started having what they call AFib. So my heart rate's been 67, and I'm watching it, right? I'm wired up, and I got a transmitter, and I'm watching this thing on the screen. I can see it from my bed, right? And I'm checking it pretty regular, making sure my heart's beating like it should. And it's always 67, maybe 65. It's looking good. Now it's 40, and then it's 80, then it's 100, and then it's 20, and then it's like AFibbing, right? In comes 4 or 5 people come running in the room. Like I set off the alarm, right? This is pretty concerning. And Nurse Goulet, she gets a bag of meds and hangs it on the hook, plugs it into my IV, and then she asks if she can do it. Like she already knew what to do, and she did it already, but she had to get clearance. And she said, don't worry, nobody ever dies from AFib. You'll be fine by the morning. Which I guess is pretty common and pretty true most of the time. But later on, I noticed that I had these wires coming out of my chest, electric wires. 2 of them. They came right out of my chest, and they were taped down. They're right here. And I find out later that those are what they do next if you don't clear it with the drugs. They take you somewhere and give you a shock or something. And I said, aha, devil. Aha. I didn't have to use the wires. And then the lie jumped on me. If God really wanted to heal me, he wouldn't allow this AFib to happen. He wouldn't allow any of this to happen. I shouldn't be thankful that the wires were not needed. I should be upset with God for the AFib in the first place. And then I think, no, I'm not going to go there. God's healing me the way he wants to. And more importantly, even if he doesn't, that's okay too. I'm getting back on track, right? So the devil tries to get you off there. And there's many people involved in the complex life of ours, and God's leading the orchestra, you know. And I look at the ceiling and remind myself that God loves me, I love him, and it's his show. And it's a big show, and it's bigger than me. And I'm not sharing this to sound faithful. It's just what was in my head, you know, what I was thinking. By this time, my son Scott arrives. He visits me. He's all full of energy and happy. And he takes Jan out of the room and back to the hotel for dinner. And 10 o'clock, I'm trying to sleep. Here he comes, back in the room, my son. He hangs out for an hour and talks to me. And then he left. And I started crying. And I said, this is what love looks like. When your adult son, comes and holds your hand for an hour and talks things over right there in the room. Yeah. And what about all these medical professionals that touched me? They spent years and years of their lives studying and learning to work these miracles of science. And what about the hundreds of people that prayed? Lily prayed one morning here before all this. Georgina and Rodney prayed. Ethan and Lydia prayed. Nate and Kate prayed. David prayed. Mary. Many of you prayed for me. I'm so thankful for this. Yeah. It seems kind of complex how God does it, right? It's complicated. There's hundreds of people involved. I'm starting to get a glimpse of a little glimpse of the big picture. Just a little, maybe this is a pretty big show here. What turned out to be the last day, in comes St. John the phlebotomist. He's not the Baptist. He's the phlebotomist. He's coming in to take some blood. I still have chest tubes and wires, and he's got his needle out. He leans over me, and this big gold cross on a heavy gold chain, and he looked like an old version of Brad. He's like a SEAL or something, or retired. This gold cross comes swinging. I think it's going to hit me in the face. Comes swinging. He's looking for a place to put the needle. There's not much room for more of those. And I said, "You must be a believer." I said to him. He says, "Oh yeah, I'm a pastor." And he takes the blood, and then I hear this snap, snap, and he puts on a new pair of blue gloves, and he comes over to me and says, "I want to pray for you." He said, "I'm not supposed to do this." They're not supposed to do this. But when the Holy Spirit tells me to pray, I pray. I said, yeah, you can pray for me. He grabbed my hand and he prayed. I watched his biceps, I don't know what he said. I can't remember. I think, was he an angel? And then I felt the whole atmosphere in that room shift. And I looked at Jan. She was standing down at the foot of the bed. I looked at Jan, and she felt it too. We like something just changed. And then I kind of knew, well, I get to go home pretty soon. And there was a lot of stress about this because they told us they want us to check out, when they send me out of there, which they wouldn't tell me when, we have to stay in town for 2 days and then come back. They want to check wounds and stuff. Well, we had to extend, she's extending the hotel reservations. My son's might have to change his flight from Detroit to Cleveland, and then who's going to drive us home? And we're like stressed out about this. And then shortly after St. John was there, in comes Joseph. Joseph looks like that guy on a movie star guy. What's that show? White Collar. I don't know if you ever saw the show. Anyway, he looks like he's an Italian guy. He's really good looking, right? Got the really good hair. Anyway, he's looking me over, and he says, I think that you could just go home, and your team in Port Huron, Nate and Dr. Scaff, they can look after you. You'll be fine. You don't need to stay. And all you have to do is get rid of this chest tube and these wires, and we got a chest x-ray. If that looks good, you get to go home. And I knew then, we're going to go home. So he rips those tubes out of me. Unbelievable. Chest x-ray came back good, and it's time to go home. Marissa, the nurse, comes with the wheelchair and gets me in it. Jan pushed me down the lobby. Scott, my son, gets the car out of the parking garage and goes to the pharmacy and gets all the drugs, and he has to negotiate a little bit because some of those are opioids, and they didn't want to give it to him because he wasn't me. But they did. And then he brought the car over, and we got in and went home. He drove us home. I'm in the back seat with the pillow. You know the one. Don't sit in the front. You don't want to get the airbag thing. So now we're home, and all the times we lived, I'm getting close. This is 17. I'm going to land the plane. All the years we lived in our house, I never counted the steps from the first floor to the second. So now I know this is a 12-step program to get up there. Yep. And my first few times up took a little while. My little brother from Auburn Hills, who's here today, Jim.
Still take you, David.
Yeah. He comes up to offer to take my son to Detroit to get on the plane to go back to California, right? So he's visiting, and he brings cookies, our mother's recipe. Oh, this is good. And there's so much more to the story, and we can skip the part about the wounds not healing well or trying to learn to eat again, or difficult reentry into the bathroom. And God just gave me a bunch more years. My original aortic valve was in bad shape, and I'm tempted to say I dodged a bullet, but that's not what happened. It's way simpler than that. I just got more years. Not that I deserved them or anything I did to get them. So God and I have been talking about that. What's that look like? How's it supposed to play out? What about this big shove to my trajectory? And I want to thank you all for praying for me. A special thanks to my wife, Jan, who, without her loving support, care, and advice, I wouldn't be here telling you about my bonus years. It was a miracle that I even mentioned the symptoms to the doc. It was a miracle that Nurse Tripwire stopped the stress test. It was God at work bringing Nathan into my life. I know a guy. I wanted and believed and prayed for an instantaneous, miraculous healing, but instead God involved hundreds of people, doctors, nurses, dentists, technicians, caregivers, prayer warriors. I'm sure he has his reasons for how he's conducting his orchestra, and it may not be just about me. Every day I wake up and think this is a bonus. I want to end with my favorite emergency scripture verse. Do we have that? It's Jeremiah 20:9-11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. So I'm done. One thing I can do is I can take a look at the ceiling tiles with anybody who wants to have a look. And if God's shoving you around a little and you feel like some prayer is needed, now's the time. So I'm going to be up here, so will some others. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Come on. This is awesome. Come on. Stay up here, David. I love the faithfulness of what the Lord did for you in this process, and it makes me think of Jesus sleeping on the boat while the boat is just getting rocked back and forth. And I started to think as you were sharing that, just like sometimes we're like, God, what are you doing? Where are you? And what he's presenting to us is that he can be silent but still with us in the midst of it. That actually his silence is the peace that comes in the storm. And that was just beautiful, David. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much.